Kevin Durso covers the Flyers for 97.3 ESPN.com. And he writes today, check out the piece, the Flyers deadline approaching should not change despite where they sit in the standings. What's going on, Kevin?
Not much, guys. How you doing?
We're all good, man. 3 o'clock, the deadline here. The Flyers brought in goalie Petr Mrazek last week, but they did sign Johnny Oduya today, so they get a veteran defenseman. So do you think between now and the top of the hour, Ron Hextall should be pushing to make calls, or do you think he should kind of stay pat?
I think any GM at this time of the day, especially as the deadline just gets closer, is probably still looking at options, but I don't think there's really anything that's going to come out of it for Ron Hextall. I think that he's very satisfied with where this team is, and he really should be given the way they've played over the last, really 3 months, but over the last month in particular, things have been going so well that you kind of just have to reward this team for what they've done and see what they can do on their own without trying to provide too much help. Oduya is a great veteran addition, somebody who's just going to come in to round out that back end defensively as needed. Probably won't see the lineup for a little while here, but still great addition. And obviously getting a goalie like Mrazek to come on and kind of bolster the playoff push was something that was necessary.
Yeah, now, you know, if they were to be making calls and to add something, is there a specific need that you still think they have, or do you like the makeup of this locker room and this roster right now?
If there was a need, probably maybe a depth forward at this point. Oduya was the low-end depth defenseman they were probably looking for, and they've obviously addressed the goaltending situation with the injuries as well. So probably depth forward. They were looking at a guy like Ryan Hartman before that trade went down. Chicago traded him to Nashville, so he was a guy who was kind of on the radar. But the price is probably just too high for somebody like that. Even at this point, Hextall's really not in a position where he feels comfortable trading prospects and draft picks, and that seems to be the ask. So I think he's comfortable with it, and I think everybody should kind of be a little bit comfortable with it, because when you look at what they've done over the last month or so, at this point, pushing for the division lead is kind of like playing with house money at this point. You're exceeding expectations on what this team was supposed to be this year. There are certainly ways that you can address some of those other needs in the offseason. So I think they ride it out with what they have and see where this year goes.
So, Kevin, you were talking about Johnny Oduya. You think he's a significant upgrade over Mark Alt? Same for same? How do you view that pickup?
I think it's good for them. I think that what they were looking to do more than anything is kind of look at the third pairing, and it's been a bit of an adventure sometimes with that third pairing, Radko Gudas and Brandon Manning at times. Yes, Manning's coming off of an afternoon where he picks up 3 points in the third period in the win in Ottawa, and that's all well and good, but defensively it's sometimes still a bit of an adventure with that pairing. And as you get closer to the playoffs, you just look for even more structure and even more stability at that position. So I think that mainly this is just about adding a guy who they feel comfortable getting in there. I don't think they were uncomfortable with Mark Alt, but Alt was just kind of a guy who, it was almost like he was wasting his time by just being the healthy scratch here. He was suited for the Phantoms to play regular time in Lehigh Valley in the AHL, and he kind of was just wasting his time being a healthy scratch up here. So he gets an opportunity. It's certainly good for him, but Oduya gives the Flyers that veteran option, waiting in the wings should anything happen with the lineup.
And I've already seen like a tweet go by that Evander Kane to the Sharks and what they gave up, a first, a prospect, a conditional fourth. That's exactly what you're talking about, of don't give up all the future for a rental player.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Evander Kane's probably been a player who's been in Flyers rumors for multiple seasons now, and if that was going to be the asking price, and I also saw that San Jose is just viewing that strictly as a rental. There's no plan to sign him to some form of an extension that keeps him around beyond the season. So to give up that much and only have him for a stretch of a month and a half, maybe 2 months pending playoff duration, it's just not worth it to Hextall at this time when you've got so many prospects waiting in the wings. You've got draft picks that certainly hold value. And another thing with the draft picks is that Hextall's kind of tied down because of the fact that you don't know what the draft pick going to Detroit from Mrazek's going to be just yet. He's already got 2 wins, so you can probably take that conditional fourth and say it's going to be a third, because he should probably reach 5 by the end of the regular season. And then the playoffs are unpredictable as ever sometimes. So that could turn into anything at that point and get to that second. So he didn't have the ability to offer even a second-round pick just out of the sheer chance that they make a run in the playoffs too. So he's tied down with that, and there really wasn't much that Hextall could do to try to add a player like that at this time. I think the offseason is ripe for him to try to look into bigger options at that time.
Since you brought up Petr Mrazek, what have you seen from him? It's been a small sample size, but what have you seen from him so far?
So far, so good. I thought he made a really good first impression in his first start against Columbus on Thursday. Really, especially later in the game, and during the second period in particular, they were really just all out of sorts, couldn't create chances. Columbus was bringing everything they had. And in a game where he didn't really see a whole lot of shots, especially for how Columbus plays, he had to face a lot in that second period. And then the third period was much more of that structured defensive style that the Flyers have been trying to play on a regular basis. And he was good throughout that. I guess, the later part of that game against Ottawa in the third period, he definitely wanted the second goal allowed back. The third one was a rebound he probably wishes he would have been able to hold on to. But otherwise, I think what he's done so far is provided exactly what the Flyers wanted out of a starting goaltender who's going to kind of carry everything for the rest of the regular season here. Nothing against Alex Lyon, and I'm sure Lyon will get his share of starts in the right situations. Particularly, they have a back-to-back on Saturday and Sunday this weekend where Lyon will probably get a start somewhere in that. But Mrazek's doing exactly what they wanted him to do, and that's come in and be a capable starter who's able to put the team in a position to win.
Kevin Durso is with us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. You can check out his coverage of the Flyers at 97.3 ESPN.com. Petr Mrazek will be in goal tonight. He's 2-0 with a 2.02 goals against average, 91 save percentage so far in his 2 games with Philly. What you think about what Boston and Pittsburgh did over the weekend? A lot of people saying, well, they made moves. Does Philly have to, match them? Do you think they made significant enough moves that make you think that you would have to, do something to keep pace?
I can certainly understand where people are coming from with that. You look at what Pittsburgh adds. Pittsburgh goes out and gets Derek Brassard, and Boston goes and grabs a guy like Rick Nash. And yes, they're all, they're significant moves. They're moves, though, that really say from their end, we're going for it right now. And I don't think that's where Hextall is in his mindset. This is a year where you're still watching a lot of young players get that first taste of being in a playoff race, and playoff experience this year is going to be incredibly valuable. And that's the good thing about where they are at this stage of the deadline. I think Hextall doesn't feel pressure to make a move like that or to do anything in relation to the fact that they're not in a wild card spot, or they're not in a wild card spot by 1 or 2 points or just on the outside looking in, where you could make a move that you feel will help you get into the playoffs. They're pretty locked in at this point, given the fact that the first team out of the playoffs is 11 points behind them. So they feel comfortable about where they are in the standings. The team feels very relaxed, too. There's a confidence about the team right now, and the fact that if they didn't make a move, so what? We're able to try to carry this ourselves, and we're going to try to go and win as much as we can ourselves. So they don't feel pressure. It's definitely a different situation for Hextall and the team because of the fact that, for years now it's been who's going to be sold off at the deadline. In this case, I think there's a lot of comfort. There's a relaxed feel about the deadline, and they're ready to go, starting with the game in Montreal tonight and moving forward throughout the week. March is going to be tough, and they've got to play both those teams, Pittsburgh and Boston, in a back-to-back pretty early on there, and that'll be a good measuring stick for where this team is at this point. But I don't see them making any move just to match that when it's not really where they are as a franchise compared to the other two.
All right, the deadline coming up in about 20 minutes from now. Kevin Durso at Kevin_Durso on Twitter. Check out his stuff on the Flyers right now at 97.3 ESPN.com, where he says the Flyers should approach the deadline. They should not change their approach despite the standings, and he just kind of explained why for you right there here on 97.3 ESPN. Kevin, appreciate it, pal.
No problem. Thanks, guys.